Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby and Forever Sports, and the Cheetahs have just thumped the EP Elephants 71 points to 12 in Bloemfontein. An absolute thrashing of the EP Elephants, who we've used this many times before, but when we talk about boys versus men, it's professional side versus a semi-pro side. The gulf in quality it's just too obvious. It really is too obvious. The EP are so far off this level that they're not going to begin to compete anytime soon, unfortunately. Before we sort of break the game down, please do subscribe to the channel, smash a like on the video as well. Let me know what you thought of the performance. Is there hope for the EP? If you're a Cheetah supporter, make sure you smash the like button as well. But yeah, in terms of the game, I mean, it was 11 tries. It was 11 tries. 6 tries in the second half, 5 tries in the first half. It was so easy for the Cheetahs. That back three of Craig Barry, Rainer Smith, and Marcel Muller on debut, scoring 2 tries, almost had a hat trick. It was so easy for them. It literally was a couple of phases, go out wide. There was space out wide every single time. And that's all they did, is they pretty much just went out wide the entire time. And that's how they scored all the tries. It was so easy for the Cheetahs to get in behind that EP side. And the problem with this EP side is that you're looking at about 12 players in the starting lineup, pretty much, 11, 10 players who've never played this sort of level. And to be very honest, a lot of players who won't be able to play this level. They're not of the quality to be playing this level. There are some youngsters who can have had some time to develop, but there are a lot of players there who, unfortunately, are just not quite good enough. So, there was a couple of fresh performances. I thought CJ Velleman, you could see he's played this level before. Sia Nzuzo had some very nice moments. Anile Lungisa, Ini Radebe, a couple of decent moments. But you can just see, I mean, it's so easy to see in moments where you see Ini Radebe. Now, obviously, he didn't have a perfect game, but, it's difficult to play with a side which is, struggling. But you can just see a couple of the players, the likes of CJ Velleman, the likes of Radebe, even Nzuzo, they're just so much better. You can just see so obviously they've played this level, that they've experienced this level, that they are cut out to play rugby at a Currie Cup sort of level, where so many of the other players just aren't, and they've never played there, and it's unfit, and they're just not physically ready for this sort of level. So for the Cheetahs, I mean, you can't. What are you going to say? It's 71 points. I don't think you could say there was anything wrong with that performance whatsoever. From the start, from the front row, I thought Vilma Nolly was fantastic, carried it up really strongly. Lineups were solid. Chris Masano, Mahoji, and Andy Sensila were pretty industrious. Mahoji did get a yellow card. And the EP Elephants, look, the EP Elephants did score 2 tries through Mbembe Pai. Very nice tries, so good on him to get those. I thought Sherwin Slater is somebody who actually worked quite hard for EP. But for the Cheetahs, I mean, Howard Nisi, Chris Smith, Reynard Fortain went off quite early, and Rion Pino got a run out at number 10, looked completely at home like there, as you'd imagine. Ruben de Haas was solid. Tion May came on and scored a couple of tries. It was just so easy for the Cheetahs. You kind of just watch the game, and there were just situations where it was almost like a game of touch rugby, where the Cheetahs just weren't really taking it seriously, looking around, saying, okay, well, you can go, okay, you can go. Too many missed tackles for the Elephants. Defensive structures were really poor. No sort of team chemistry. I mean, they had some moments. There was a really nice sort of 2-minute passage of play where they got out of their 22 right towards the end. Nice line out, 2 really good carries, a fantastic kick by Ini Radebe. And you kind of look at that and think, well, the problem is that's a 90-second passage of play that they need to be able to replicate across 80 minutes. And they just couldn't. So there were a couple of moments where you're thinking, yeah, maybe they can step up to this level, but they're just so far off. For the Cheetahs, it's the end of rugby for them for a while. There's no sort of plan, no sort of official confirmation on where they will play in their rugby in a couple of months' time. So a nice opportunity for them to get a final run out. A couple of players also still not up to scratch. I mean, Marcel Muller, I'm getting some cramp towards the end there. But now they sort of go into this sort of stage of limbo where they wait to find out what the plan is going to be, where they're going to be playing their rugby, what's going to be happening at the Cheetahs. Which players are going to stay. Will Ruan Pienaar, Frans Steyn, Clayton Blomekies, Opa Mahoja, and Disa Nsile. These are players who probably could be playing in the Rainbow Cup. Definitely could be playing in the Rainbow Cup. Whether they move, whether they commit to the Cheetahs is going to be quite interesting. There's also quite a lot of youngsters coming through at the Cheetahs. And we saw Marcel Muller. I mean, he was a matric 2 years ago playing. Gideon van Beek came off the bench. He's also 20 years old. So these are some very young, exciting players. So it's a good squad by Cheetahs. And the problem is they need to try and find a competition which is at a high enough standard to allow these players to play at that standard so that they can actually be putting themselves in for high selection. If they want to be making stream marks, they have to be playing good standard of rugby week in, week out. And unfortunately, playing in a league which is not particularly strong, and even if they completely whitewash them, you're not going to sit there and say, well, he's good enough to come play Test rugby. You can't go from playing B grade rugby to playing Test rugby. I mean, Rassie Erasmus has already been saying he doesn't like the players in Japan, basically, because he said he doesn't really rate the league. Whereas players playing in Europe, the top 14 in the Premiership, that's a high standard of rugby. That's, that is one below Test rugby. But, a Japanese league or the Major League Rugby, it isn't quite that quality, which is the biggest problem for the Cheetahs. They need to try and find a league. And that's what I think, Shorter Fowler says a lot in the comments, talking about the idea of we need almost a second-tier European competition where the likes of the Cheetahs and the Pumas, for example, or the Griquas can play rugby throughout the year. Financially it's probably not very viable, but we need to be able to have this sort of system and try and bring in a promotion litigation or something, just to try and make sure that your Cheetahs, your Pumas, your Griquas, these sides are playing high standard rugby throughout the year, because if they're not, they're never going to compete and carry cup time. They're never going to compete with the other big sides. So it was a great performance by the Cheetahs. It was a very ordinary performance by EPF, and they're just so far off this level. And they've got a long way to go. But CJ Velleman was saying he can see improvement. He's obviously been in there a long time. He says, obviously you can't see in the scoreline, but he says, a lot of these players, we just kind of threw a team together. It's taken a long time. He says, it's been a nice experience. It's been a privilege to get out there. And it will. And I think hopefully, if they are in the Currie Cup at the end of the year, they will be better. I have no doubt about it. They will be better, because it is a side that needs to play rugby together for a while, needs to gel. You need to try and sort of decide which players can you back, which players can't you back. Can they start working on loans? They've got to start doing that. Let me know what you thought of the game down in the comments below. Do smash a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new. My name is Steven. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I will chat to you soon.